I'll be honest with you guys, I was really hyped when HappyModel was announcing their Mobula 6 2024 edition, and on paper, it looked extremely promising for racing pilots. Outside of the issues that I'll be discussing, this thing is great. I'm glad that they went to a higher KV, but kept the 0703 size for the minimal weight. The all-in-one is kind of the middle ground between the Super B F4 and the Diamond F4, which are both flight controllers that I really like and I personally use with my other builds. I also like that everything was soldered directly to the board to reduce weight, and that way you're also ensured that when you do troubleshoot, you wouldn't have to worry about the security of connectors because, you don't have any. This canopy is also holding up a lot better than the Beta FPV variant, which I honestly hate because I kept breaking. And the camera has a pretty good 150 degrees field of view, and I would think it's a good replacement for the Runcam Nano 3, which most HappyModel whoops had. The frame itself has a little bit more flex in it, but it is lighter than the old Mobula 65 frames. And the Mobula 65 2024 edition does come with the A30 connector, which is always a plus. So naturally, I had pretty high expectations, and reviews so far agree that this was a great bite and fly. So I ordered it when I had the chance. It took a few months because of the shortage, but I did finally get my hands on this the other day. And I was hit with some disappointment. I got my Mobula 6 the other day and I did my usual things. Recorded the unboxing, inspected the whoop's hardware, made sure the screws were adequately tight, and added my own rates and modes in Betaflight. I didn't want to change too much out of the box as I knew most people would be flying this without modifying anything in Betaflight, and oddly enough, that's where I found some issues. Why are you not connecting? First, my rates were not being reflected when I saved them in Betaflight. The profile and numbers in the OSD settings were correct, but somehow it felt nothing like my rates and felt like the default rates that come in Betaflight. Second, I had some shaking occurring while I was testing the Mob 6. Though it's not obvious in these DVR recordings, it made flying the whoop a lot harder and it felt kinda sluggish. At some points, the video feed would also get blurry, which some have pointed out as well, and in my case, there were some good amount of noise. At that point, I was convinced that it was some firmware issue, and I assumed that the two issues would likely be fixed if I reflashed and applied HappyModel's own dump file back into the CLI. This was a big, dumb mistake that added so much more issues that I needed to fix. The first thing you should not do is assume that reflashing will fix the issue. Though it does most times, for something this new that uses new components, what you should do first is research and save a backup of your settings. Find out if others are experiencing the same or if there are any other similar cases with other bind and flies in the same category. You can also try to be more specific and try to narrow down what is causing your issues. In my case, the hex file from HappyModel's website would not work on my all-in-one, and I had to resort to flashing firmware online using the firmware target and version you see on screen. After trying to reapply the dump file from HappyModel's website, my VTX stopped working and my ELRS receiver was acting kinda dodgy. I was at a position way worse than I was before. After some time, I did get it to kind of work and it was flying for a little while up until I had another issue, where the whoop would just randomly fall out of the sky and reboot. I was unsure if this was a software thing, but the first thing I assumed was that the battery connector was loose. The second thing you should not do is messing around with the hardware of your bind and fly, specifically with soldering. Soldering decreases your chances of getting a refund and may cause other issues down the line. Especially with these compact all-in-ones, you may end up unsoldering or overheating components on the board. What you should do in this scenario is contact the place where you bought your bind and fly from and communicate your issues. To have a better chance at getting a refund or replacement, you shouldn't really modify settings or tamper the solder joints before communicating with your seller. Despite all the issues, the last thing you should not do is panic, at least only at the disco. I chime in with a Panicking will only worsen the situation, and I personally experienced this last Saturday. The best thing to do is to calm down and give yourself some time. I firmly believe that problems usually have multiple solutions, and the same goes with these little drones. Didn't expect that, didn't you? After some time, I did manage to get this thing to fly decently without any of the issues I had before. Took a lot of trial and error, but after some research, some rest, and a lot of patience, I'm 80% happy with how this flies and its performance. Just briefly, here are my new Betaflight settings for my Mob 6. Please do note that this is just the solution I found for my situation, and it may not work for yours, so be cautious and always have a backup of your settings. I followed the port settings it had before since no changes in wiring was made. Notably, UART1's MSP and Serial RX is activated since the all-in-one is using an MSP-based BTX and a serial ELRS receiver. Also, set UART1's peripherals as VTX, MSP, plus DisplayPort. In the Configuration tab, I changed PID loop frequency to 3.2 kHz to match the gyro loop, turned off the accelerometer because I don't really need it, I fly acro, and changed the name to just 2024. So these are my PIDs and filter settings, so feel free to pause if you want to take a look. Currently, I'm still kind of playing around with the slider since I think I can dial it in a little bit more to suit my preference. I also increased my dynamic idle and it is now at 55. And lastly, these are my filters. Again, this is all still subject for change, but so far it's flying well for me. These are my usual modes that I like to have. All that I have is ARM and pre-ARM, beeper to help me find the drone, and turtle mode. In the motors tab, I have the motor direction reversed and I've selected my protocol to be D-Shot 300 with bidirectional D-Shot enabled. Also, make sure your motor poles is set to 12. My OSD is simple since I don't like having half of my screen blocked with text, so I only have my battery voltage, RSSI dBm value, and my craft name. Lastly, for the VTX, this is the only part that I copy-pasted from the original dump file from HappyModel's website. I copied this portion from the file and pasted it in my CLI and saved. I only fly in my room, so I've set it to race band channel 1 with 25 milliwatts of output power. That's all we have for this short video on the do's and don'ts of getting a bind and fly. I don't think I can do a solid review on this anymore since it essentially is completely different now on the software side of things. Despite this, we gotta make lemonade out of lemons, and I hope you guys still enjoyed this short video and hopefully also learn from my own dumb mistakes. I also just wanted to share my experience so far with the Mobula 65 2024 edition and the issues that I went through, because honestly, some of you may also be experiencing this, but I hope you guys know that with every problem, there's a solution. Keep that in mind that this could just be an isolated problem and not really a problem that you may experience. Thank you guys again for supporting this channel and for supporting me. It is crazy that this channel is actually growing really fast, but I'm happy I get to make videos for this amazing community that we are starting to grow. Anyways, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Camila, is that the thing?